I'm Juan Sánchez, an economist at the San Luis Fed, and today I would like to take a closer look at a recent jump in credit card delinquency rates. Individuals that skip their due credit card payments become delinquents on credit card debt. That affects interest rate charges, fees, and credit scores. We focus our attention on credit card accounts at least 60 days delinquent. We exclude debt that is more than 120 days past due. It makes sense that credit cards delinquency rate rise in times of economic stress. And indeed, they reach very high level during the global financial crisis. Things look remarkably different during the pandemic, though, as households maintained record low levels of delinquency rate during the Covid19 recession and immediately after. We believe that forbearance programs, restrained spending during lockdowns, and generous government assistance were some of the factors keeping delinquency low during the last recession. However, credit card delinquencies then began to rise significantly in the middle of 2021. Specifically, the share of those with delinquent credit card debt grew for Americans in their 20s and 30s, for Americans in their 40s and 50s, and for Americans in their 60s and 70s as well. Age is correlated with delinquency, as the youngest age group tend to have a higher portion of people experience delinquency than the other two groups. That could be due to higher unemployment risk or to higher interest rate that they pay for having shorter credit history, among other reasons. Delinquencies have reached their highest level since 2011, and by the middle of 2023, the rate for all three age groups were only slightly below where it was during the global financial crisis. Now let's look at credit card debt delinquency rates in a subgroup of American households, specifically those in the most financially distressed zip codes. These zip codes account for 20% of households, and they were identified by our previous research using data for 2018, before the pandemic. Our research showed that weak economic conditions affect households in these zip codes more, and they respond with larger declines in consumption than the general population. Age is still correlated with delinquency, as those in their 20s and 30s again have higher credit card delinquency rates. However, these rates were greater in the most financially distressed zip codes than they were for Americans overall across the three age groups. In fact, for those in their 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s, the data show that delinquency rates in the middle of 2023 are back near where they averaged during the global financial crisis. While the share of delinquent account is approaching where it averaged during the global financial crisis, we also extended our analysis to look at delinquent debt as a percentage of all debt. We found that delinquent debt remains a smaller share of total credit card debt than it was in 2008. Even so, the trend shows a clear worsening of household financial condition, particularly in more financially distressed zip codes. The takeaway from all of this is that, overall, credit card delinquency rate in the middle of 2023 is not fully comparable to where it stood in 2007, 2008, and 2009. But the rise is significant, and it will be important to pay attention to new data coming in over the near term.